Welcome into Behind Enemy Lines, a collaboration between the Paul Farrington Show and the Pack-A-Day Podcast. Paul, joined by Robert Ziggy Ziegler and Andy Herman of the Pack-A-Day Podcast to react to Week 12 from around the NFC North. There was I guess for this podcast, it was a week to circle. An exciting Viking-Packer matchup before the game. Certainly for us, we were hoping to rebound from JJ McCarthy. Maybe could get back into the playoff race. Ziggy and I were at the game, actually, this time. We met Andy on Saturday. Thanks again, Andy, for coming to the meet and greet. It was awesome seeing you. And then the game happened. It was a great weekend until the game. And we saw the Vikings just get absolutely curb stomped by the Green Bay Packers in Lambeau Field. And yeah, Lambeau Field was great, but the product on the field for the Vikings wasn't. Congratulations, though, Andy. I guess we could start with congratulating you on a dominant win finally for the Packers.
Thank you. Appreciate that. Always good to get a dominant win, especially against the Vikings. Let's start, though, before we have plenty of time to enjoy your misery as we walk through this game, of course. But let's start with your weekend on the whole. Like, what was the experience like? How was Green Bay? What was your favorite parts? How was like the first time walking into Lambeau Field? All that sort of stuff.
Go ahead, Ziggy.
Well, I'll just tell you right now, Lambeau Field is a special place. I mean, it's unbelievable. It feels like you're walking into what football's supposed to be about. There's a mix of history and modernity. You've got beautiful architecture. You see all these incredible players. You can go in the Hall of Fame and see replicas of all the Super Bowl trophies. It made me feel like this is what being a football fan should be like. And of course, I got reminded about what being a football fan actually is like if you're a Minnesota Vikings fan. But just the whole Lambeau Field thing, leaving the game and walking through a neighborhood to get to your car, you really feel like you're going back in time in the best way when you see a game there.
Yeah, I thought the Packers Hall of Fame was really cool. And that maybe for $20 a person to get in right before the game. I wasn't thrilled about the $70 we dropped to get in there, but it honestly was pretty unbelievable walking through. I really enjoyed the part with the Hall of Famers, the lockers that they had, and you could go back and just see some of these legendary Packers players, the jerseys they had, the Vince Lombardi letters, and there was I think it was a Don Hudson, maybe it was. There was an article about comparing him to Babe Ruth, and how everyone thought he was a more electrifying player than Babe Ruth was. I thought that was just really cool. And then, of course, the Super Bowl trophy room was something that I've never even seen something like that before. So Ziggy and I had a funny picture on Twitter that you could check out of me and him just staring, kind of mesmerized and disappointed at one of the Packers 4 Super Bowl trophies. But yeah, the day was great. And, Andy, I thought you'd enjoy this. When we were at the meet and greet, way after, we stuck around and we're talking with a couple people, and someone was just saying, yeah, I drove up all the way an hour and a half to see this, and I'm just standing there, and then Andy Herman walks right by me. I was like, yeah, no, he has that effect. And so I think you had a couple people starstruck there.
I'm not sure if that's true or not, but I appreciate it nonetheless. It was cool. You guys had an awesome event, unbelievable turnout. It was cool. I wish I could have stayed longer. Had a show we were going to. We went to Book of Mormon that night, so unfortunately I already had those tickets, so wasn't able to attend a little bit longer, but it was cool to see the turnout that you guys got, deservedly so, and glad that you guys got to enjoy the experience, Lambeau Field, Green Bay, everything it has to offer. You mentioned the houses around Lambeau and things like that. There's a couple moments that I've had. It was one time was after a playoff game, and I'm parked on the street in these neighborhoods, and you walk, and I had to pause for a moment because I had just come from a stadium full of 80,000 rabid Packers fans, and I was on this street, and I just kind of looked around, and there's maybe one person other also because I don't know if I'm just a fast walker or whatever, but there's kind of one other person, but you would have really had no idea whatsoever that anything. It was just this quiet little street. There's cars parked on or whatever, but there's just a quiet little street. It was this beautiful night, and I think there's a little snow coming down. It looks like you're just going through a stroll through this casual neighborhood, and I literally look behind me, and you can still see the obviously the glow of Lambeau, and but it was just, it's crazy how you can have the juxtaposition of like this very quaint small neighborhood with some cars parked on it to like all of a sudden you like walk one more step and it's just like, oh, the holy grail of, sports stadiums in the entire world, in my opinion, is chilling right there behind it. It's a really cool experience.
So I want you guys to really listen to that description from Andy there. Walking down the street, maybe a little sunshine, some snow. If you listen faintly, you could hear Santa's sleigh above his head. And for me and Ziggy now, on the other hand, that felt like, trudging through a blizzard. And we're walking back and we see the light of Lambeau Field just shining with a sign that's like, you guys suck. That's sort of how it felt in Ziggy and I's shoes. But no, it is amazing that we were saying the same thing, actually, walking down the street. Like, this would just be a regular town here in New Jersey. You'd have no idea. And there definitely is a magic feel there that you just really don't get, probably. I mean, I've been to a lot of other NFL stadiums and nothing's even close to that in terms of sort of just like, the aura of the building and that special feeling. So I'd like to go back. I know the title of our video is I'm Never Coming Back. I would like to go back. Maybe not Vikings Packers immediately, but Notre Dame, Wisconsin next year. Ease my way back to a Viking beatdown on Lambeau Field. But why don't we get into the game a little bit? Because it was a massive win for you guys. I mean, it was a huge win. I don't want to say season saving. I feel like the Giants one had a little bit more weight in that regard. But this was definitely a performance where the Packers had struggled all year against inferior opponents. And I mean, I know Ziggy and I talk about the Vikings roster having a lot of talent, but like when you have JJ McCarthy under center, like we are an inferior opponent to Green Bay. Go ahead.
I thought the really interesting thing of this game was that it not only did Green Bay, not only did they win, and it felt like an inferior opponent, it felt like for the first time, it almost felt like there was some major disrespect from the Packers, especially in the second half, being you guys can't score. We're not even going to try to do anything in the second half. We're literally just going to run the same play. We're going to have Emmanuel Wilson's just going to run the ball. And if we, go 3 and out or punt the ball away, it doesn't matter because we're going to get the ball right back anyway. It literally felt almost like, we know wholeheartedly that once we got to 17 points, you guys, it's going to take you like 2 more games to get to 17 points on the way that the Packers defense was playing and the way that the Vikings offense was playing in that game. And it was just kind of interesting to see how Green Bay dealt that second half of just like, yep, we're good. We don't need any more. The only way that we get beat is if we do something stupid and throw an interception or give you an opportunity to get back into this. We're not doing that. So here's a lot of Emmanuel Wilson.
Yeah, and that's after the fumble on the punt, the 17-6 did feel insurmountable. Like it truly did. We had a couple nice drives to open the game, and after that, especially the second half, it really did feel like Jack said it was like watching a high school team play against a professional team or a college team on the field. You guys just manhandled us. I did want to ask you, what was your happiest takeaway from this? Was it the defense just dominating, or do you think it was more the Vikings kind of imploding? As a Packer fan now, is there a lot that you can take out of this game moving into the Thanksgiving one, or is it mostly just the momentum of a win?
Yes, but there's one big one, and that to me was Green Bay came off that game against the Giants and had a billion mistakes, their own self-inflicted mistakes in that game, drop passes, penalties, missed extra points, you turn over, you name it. They found ways to really shoot themselves in the foot over and over and over and over again. And in this game, you didn't have any of that. I don't think they had any drops. They had 2 penalties on the day. That was it. No turnovers, no missed kicks, no stupid special teams mistakes. This was about as clean of a game from a Packers standpoint that we've seen in a really long time. Certainly not perfect. There were a lot of mistakes up front on the offensive line where Vikings came crashing through basically unblocked. Some of that stuff still needs to get cleaned up, but I thought overall, from a just brand of football standpoint, I thought they played a much better brand of football, really limited the mistakes. And if they can play like that and really just don't give teams extra chances, they become so much more difficult to beat. And I thought we really saw that in this game.
Yeah, I mean, it's great when you don't make mistakes. It's also great when basically every player on the team finds a way to contribute. I mean, Warren Brinson had 4 pressures this game. We've been asking all year. Obviously, I don't feel like there's a lot to talk about for the Packers offense this game, just because down the stretch, Emmanuel Wilson, it felt like he was getting 11 yards a carry as the Minnesota Vikings defense sort of gave up playing the run. But the Packers defense played lights out this game. And we've been waiting all year to see somebody other than Micah Parsons have production. Let's be clear. Micah Parsons had incredible production. The play where he just bulldozed through Jonathan Jackson to get to JJ McCarthy was just unreal. He was good in run defense. But this felt like the first game where you got some production out of Rashawn Gary, Devontae Wyatt, and Kingsley Enagbare. That didn't turn into a bunch of sacks, but JJ McCarthy had guys in his face early, almost every single play, it felt like.
Yeah, they did a great job of making sure that, if there was any way for JJ McCarthy to get some momentum or catch fire or, go on that usual like one run that he has per game, they just weren't allowing it to happen. Like they were just like, no, you're not going to have that. And as soon as like once they got up 17-6, you could start seeing like, oh, they're not going to be able to run the ball as much anymore. And then you really saw the Packers start to get after it. I think Micah had pretty much an immediate sack right after that. And it just felt like it was over at that point in time. And when you didn't have to worry about, Mason and Jones as much, and it was just JJ McCarthy time, Green Bay, you could see their eyes light up, and it was, they were salivating at that opportunity, and they took advantage of it.
Yeah, I mean, you guys had 10 pressures and 5 sacks on the day, but it did not feel like that in the stadium. In the middle of the third quarter, you had, I think it was Wyatt, it was like quite literally throwing JJ McCarthy like around, and Micah just bulldozing over, I believe it was Donovan Jackson. It was overwhelming. And that's something for Packers fans has to make you feel so good to see that the defense pin their ears back like that and, get the job done after, because they've kind of been, maybe not explosive plays, but sort of these teams methodically moving down the field on them. If you look at the Bengals and the Giants the week before, like
Panthers.
Yeah, the Panthers. It was just, kind of death by 1,000 cuts on these drives, and you're hoping bend don't break. And I think maybe at the beginning when the Vikings, had a 10-play drive in the second quarter, you're like, okay, this is kind of what it could look like if we're going to have success. And you guys figured it out in the form of of just obliterating our quarterback. And you're right. You didn't make that big mistake that you did make in all those games. So I think it was awesome for you guys. On our end,
I've got a question for you here.
Yeah, sure.
Where you're talking a lot about JJ McCarthy here, but Kevin O'Connell was asked after the game whether he thought the team was playing at a good enough level, like if the team could win games of JJ McCarthy playing at this level. And his answer was, I think you absolutely can. I believe that. He talked about how we can't have special teams turnovers anymore. He talked about how the defense needs to fight a little bit harder to get the ball back. He talked about how the offensive players have had some struggles. So, Paul, I'm going to ask you that same question. I know Kevin O'Connell, he's the head coach. It's different what he can say. Do you think the Minnesota Vikings can be competitive and win games with JJ McCarthy playing at this level?
At the level he played at on Sunday, no. I mean, that's just
we're talking about the performance in that game.
Yeah, I mean, that's obvious. But when you break it down, I think there was a breakdown on YouTube that I was just watching of every JJ play. And like the problems run much deeper than JJ. The offensive line was just crushed. And that's something we were really excited about, Andy, coming into it. This was the first game with everyone back. And I thought that could be a huge difference maker. But you just watch, go back and watch some of these plays, and JJ, it's like 1.5 seconds, and Micah's bearing down on him. Sometimes all you can do is throw it away or check it down. And people are getting upset that he's not making these tight window throws, and you want NFL quarterbacks to hit some of these. But if you go back and watch every JJ McCarthy drop back, like not a lot's there. Guys, Hafley called a really good game. Like guys weren't open, and JJ made a few plays here or there early. But I mean, when you really go back and dive into the tape, it's like we could kill this kid. But and yes, he was bad. But there's so many other problems with this Viking offense, so Ziggy, no. The answer is you need JJ to be better, but I also don't think he's gonna deserve as much criticism as he's getting because the problems are rapid.
A couple things really quick. I think there's always a stark reminder of it's like, because I know you guys were excited going in. It's like, oh, we've got our preferred 5 offensive linemen. I mean, just Christian Darrisaw in this game at minimum did not look like himself. Immediately, like it felt like he's still battling an injury, right? So like we as fans get this like immediate feel of like, oh, everyone's out there and we're good to go. And like it doesn't always work that way. If somebody's like 50% of their normal selves, that can still affect you. And like, I don't think I've ever seen Darrisaw miss a couple blocks. And part of it's just Micah Parsons being Micah too. But like, I think Christian Darrisaw is one of the best left tackles in all football. And he clearly did not look completely right in this game. I think that played a factor as well. One of the things that Matt LaFleur always talked about when, like, at the very beginning of the Jordan Love era, through like those first 8 games or whatever, where it was like, is this workable, manageable, etc. It's like, it's not just Jordan. Like, even when it looked good, it was like, yeah, like a lot of other stuff is going well. And when it was bad, it's like, yeah, there's a lot of other stuff that's going wrong too. I got a little bit of that feel in this game of like, yeah, JJ's not playing great, but there's some stuff around him that's sort of, house of cards kind of collapsing underneath him as well. And if all of a sudden, all of those things like the protection and the receivers and everything starts going a little bit better, you'd be surprised if like, it still may not look great or whatever, but it maybe looks a little bit more competent, and that can go a long way as well. And then you can start gaining some momentum, but it's never just the quarterback. It always is a little bit more of what's going on around you. And then the last thing I'll just add really quick is, with you saying what Kevin O'Connell said about everyone can do a little bit more, etc. I think you have to be a little bit careful on that, because like defensively, for example, I thought there was overall some pretty good effort from Minnesota's defense. Like, they held Green Bay to 23 points. It wasn't a perfect day by any means, not certainly their best performance, but you have to be a little bit careful when you're like saying, well, the defense needs to do a better job of getting the ball back. And it's like, dude, your offense put up 6 points. Like, your quarterback couldn't complete a pass. Like, maybe lay off the defense. You can just start getting some divisions really quick if you're not careful with some of that stuff.
You could even say that the defense kind of allowed 16 points in a sense, because the punt you cover on the 5-yard line. It's like, all right, just having, and that was a huge stop.
Yep.
That was a huge stop to start the third quarter, where
massive.
I'm thinking, and I think I was walking back to my seat, and I'm thinking to myself, like, all right, I know the first half was kind of rough there, but we end it with the long field goal, and you're feeling good at 10-6. Like, honestly, even though the half kind of stunk. And then that sort of set the tone for the second half of, all right, we're not gonna show up. So I thought the defense, played really well. They were close. Isaiah Rodgers was close on interception. You guys had that one crazy third down where Jordan kind of threw it up in the air, and I was like, oh, all right, let's get that. And it was wound up being a perfect pass, actually. But yeah, I totally agree with you, Andy. The defense did their job. We couldn't do anything. We had negative 1 yards of offense in the second half. That's impossible. Yeah, it was just really bad. What about?
I mean, it's looking at what the offense did this game. This is the thing that worries me long term. Is I felt like we saw a huge overcorrection from Kevin O'Connell this game to JJ McCarthy's struggles. Obviously, it was bad. But when you're running the ball 60% of the time, that's by far the highest the Vikings have run the ball up until this point in the season. And really, I can't think of a time in O'Connell's tenure that it was more. When JJ McCarthy is coming out, throwing the ball an average depth of like 4.5 yards, it feels like they're worried that JJ McCarthy can't handle plays that are longer developing. So we need to run the ball and throw the ball short, which might well be true. But it doesn't feel like, at least as a fan watching this, JJ McCarthy is getting reps that are helping him get better at quarterback during these games. And I'm wondering, honestly, even if it really sucks, if it's worth having him in there, if they're going to run a game plan that installs all these bad habits of, you got to throw it to the check down every time. We're going to run the ball a bunch and take it out of your hands. Like, that worked pretty well at Michigan, and that worked well with our way our run blockers were going. But that's not a way to run an offense. And I'm not sure it's worth training JJ McCarthy to play the game that way.
Totally agree.
At one point, Andy, where I was in the stands, Ziggy, yeah, I completely agree as well. And I looked over at you guys and said, let's just launch it around a little bit. Like, if he has 7 interceptions, but he figures something out, it's worth it. Like, we're not going anywhere this year. Just let him make some mistakes. And I don't know how much of that is on O'Connell. I don't know how much is on JJ. Like, you're watching these plays, and when the offensive line did its job, JJ didn't. When JJ did his job, the receivers weren't open. Like, it was just, they never synced up. But you're watching this going, like, there's no learning. There is no progression. And the whole point of this is that JJ can at least get a little better week in and week out. And it feels like we're going in the opposite direction. And now he's in concussion protocol, and we're doing this whole thing again of people saying, he didn't really look concussed. Like, is this another soft benching? It's just, how many more times can you deal with this, right?
I'm just to go back kind of what you guys are both saying too, of like, to me, there's two ways where your quarterback's struggling that you can kind of go about doing it. You can kind of handcuff them and say, all right, it's going to be a lot of checkdowns and rollouts and bootlegs and screen passes and handoffs, right? We're not going to have you put the ball in your hands. I almost would prefer the opposite direction, kind of like what you guys are saying of just, you know what? Figure out what his 30 favorite passing plays are. Work those throughout the week. I don't care what they are. I don't care how long, short, or medium developing. What are his 30 favorite plays? We're going to rep those all week long, and we're going to get ready for those 30 plays, and we're going to let him go out and have autonomy over those 30 plays. Whatever happens, so be it. We're going to give him the plays that he feels most confident in. We're going to get him ready to make those throws, ready to make those plays. And if he throws it 30 times and there's 5 interceptions and 1 touchdown, so be it. We'll see if we can learn from it. We're going to do something similar the next week. The next week, can we cut that down to, 1 touchdown and 2 interceptions? And then the following week, 2 touchdowns and 1 interception. Like, can we figure out something that can get it going? I just don't think, to your point, like this is going to get him anywhere that he needs to go by just handcuffing him. And again, not to make this an apples to apples thing, but in that first year with Jordan Love, there was that first half of the season where you could tell they kind of handcuffed him a little bit and said, we're gonna give you the bumpers in the bowling alley. We're gonna make this so that you can't really screw up. But he couldn't go out and be Jordan Love. And then all of a sudden they took the bumpers off and they said, all right, kid, what do you got? We're gonna figure this out right here and now. And by doing that, that's when you had that, end of 2023 that looked so amazing, was because they're like, you know what, screw it, go throw it. And he's like, all right, let's do it. And it worked really, really well. I don't think that's going to happen verbatim of what would happen with McCarthy if that were, but I do think at some point you just got to say, screw it, kid, go do it. Let's see what you got.
Yeah.
I get the sense that, Kevin O'Connell knows this. He knows how to develop quarterbacks. I am starting to think that the Minnesota Vikings coaching staff is losing faith that JJ McCarthy is going to turn into what they thought he would at the beginning of the season. Whether that's right or not, I don't know. Whether they're just on tilt in their play calling, I don't know. But these are clearly not the things you do if you think JJ McCarthy has any chance this season or maybe even next season of turning into a guy you can play. Right? Even Shane Steichen, when he was in desperation mode, put Anthony Richardson on the bench for a couple weeks just to try and figure something out. And it's tough to believe we're here after only 6 games of JJ McCarthy, but I can't imagine they're not asking the same questions we are.
Yeah.
It would be one thing if the Vikings were competing for a playoff spot right now and the offensive line was mauling people and you got Jones and Jordan Mason, running really well and you just needed him to be a game manager. It's another thing where, we're not competitive. O'Connell's job is not on the line. Kwesi's job is not on the line. There's nothing to lose than figuring out if you have a guy here. It doesn't look like it right now, but there's nothing to lose by just saying, you know what, let's see how bad this can actually get. And in doing that, maybe you actually,
worse, right?
Yeah, like it can't
get worse, right?
That's what I thought. And then the second half rolls around. Yeah. But yeah, I guess we'll see what happens over the next few weeks. And Brosmer, if Brosmer comes in and plays well, it's going to get really interesting,
funky, real fast
in Minnesota. Yeah, and there are Brosmer believers in that building. A lot of people like him. He played well in the preseason. He played well against first string defenses a couple times with our third stringers. Like it could get a little testy in Minnesota.
How did we get here? How did we get to the point where we're saying it could get testy? I wasn't super high on this Minnesota Vikings season, but I just can't believe we're sitting here saying if Max Brosmer has one game where he throws for like 200 yards and a touchdown, it'll get testy in the Minnesota Vikings building.
You need the Myles Garrett approach, right? Myles Garrett has just seemed to accept losing, like Max Crosby too. Like they go out there, they're monsters, they have great games, and they're like, yeah, hopefully Shedeur can continue to get better, and they're just smiling like. Those guys seem like they've just, have accepted losing so much that's all right. Let's just keep going.
Myles Garrett would have an MVP case if he were on a team that was better, but also I have to imagine the $45 million a year he's getting make the tiers a little better.
I give him so much credit for it's easy to just kind of not put 100% effort in a season where you're clearly not doing anything, and for him to go out and play one of the best defensive seasons we've ever seen. It's pretty remarkable what he's doing
sick
right
that
now.
He has 3 sacks last week, and everyone's like, yeah, he had a pretty good game. 5 sacks is the standard.
Yeah.
So I think it would be fun for this one instead of bouncing around. The Lions Giants game and Bears Steelers were really fun, but Thanksgiving is quite literally tomorrow. And Andy, you guys have one of the biggest games of the year. I think it actually is going to live up to the hype that we gave it in the preseason. The importance is absolutely there. Are you having nightmares of Jahmyr Gibbs this week so far?
Yeah, I'm having extra nightmares because I played against him in fantasy this week, which was not ideal. So yeah, he's phenomenal. He's such an unbelievable talent, and just getting the ball in his hands at any moment gives you that. It's not quite to the level, and I know that I'm, going back a little ways here, but it's not quite to the level of Barry Sanders, or even for you guys like Adrian Peterson, where like you're going into some of those games and you're just like, oh God, like what could potentially be of this? But man, it's pretty damn close. And he has been their literal engine that makes their entire team go. You don't have Laporta. You still have Amon-Ra St. Brown and Jameson Williams, but job one in that game is to make sure you slow him down. Thankfully for Green Bay, knock on wood, they've been really good at not giving up explosives. In fact, when Jordan Mason had like the 20-yarder in that game, like that was like, oh my God, somebody got like a 20-yard run against Green Bay. That was kind of like a big deal because Green Bay's just been so good at making sure that you don't get those explosive runs. And so they have been a little bit more shaky, as we saw, I thought, in the first half against Minnesota, especially with Green Bay kind of bringing up some extra guys to try to stop the run. And Jones and Mason still had some opportunities and some looks early on. And I think they're going to have to be even more tight and obviously better prepared for Gibbs this week, because you give him that sliver and he will take it 80 in the blink of an eye.
I'm looking at the week one matchup. You guys held him to 19 yards in week one. You held the team to 46. Laporta was the high receiver with 79 yards. Amon-Ra was second with 45. And as you mentioned, Laporta's out. It actually feels like, as you break down the game, just kind of quickly in my head, the Lions offensive line has had its issues, right? The Vikings were able to exploit that. They shut down the run. Packers D-line is, probably the strength of that defensive unit. And then offensively, Love, as long as he doesn't force any turnovers. The line secondary is banged up. It feels like a spot where the Packers kind of match up pretty well coming into this one. And they have really played well in Detroit over the past few years too. Like, as a non-Packer or Lion fan, the signs kind of lead me to think Green Bay actually is going to win this game. Am I looking at anything wrong there?
No, I mean, this obviously could go either way. Both teams are very talented, and for sure. But I kind of like Green Bay as well. Just going back to that Gibbs game in week one, remember that was also the record-breaking performance where Gibbs had 10 catches for only 31 yards, which was the lowest yards per catch on 10 or more catches, I think, in NFL history in that game. So he had 19 touches for only 50 yards. Like, Green Bay completely shut him down. And if they can do that again, like if it's anything close to that, heck, he could have 19 for like 85, 90, maybe even 100. I don't even know that I would be like super upset by that. If it's anything remotely close to that, Green Bay, I think, just wins this game. Amon-Ra St. Brown has given them a ton of trouble over the years. He's still one that you're going to have to be very cognizant of. But I do like the matchup for Green Bay in this one. I liked how they played them in week one. I've liked how they've gone into Detroit in the past. They're not going to be intimidated by it. Detroit seems a little bit almost on tilt and just a little bit off as of late. That Giants game was crazy. And not only that, but the Giants had 77 plays of offense for over 500 yards. That game went into overtime. They had to do a lot of extra work in that game. And thankfully, with Green Bay facing Minnesota last week, Green Bay had 44 snaps on defense. 44. That was it. So they, the Lions is not quite obvious, but like Lions almost like doubled the amount of snaps they had to play on defense this past week. And now you're going on a short week. Thursday game, not only like a Thursday game at night, the noon kickoff on Thursday. This is a massively quick turnaround for both teams. And I do think that maybe a little bit of extra, work that Detroit had to put in could definitely play a factor in this one.
I mean, I think there's going to be a few players on the Green Bay defense who haven't been asked to do a lot since the first couple of weeks that are going to need to show up big this game. Like, Edgerrin Cooper, I think, has not had the season that a lot of us were expecting him to have. But it's not a coincidence when you talk about these Jahmyr Gibbs rushing yards that he had his season high tackles in week one.
Yeah.
Right. When you talk about the Lions' interior offensive line, they know that's a problem. And Jahmyr Gibbs, the way he can go for 8 touches and almost 200 yards is not by running up the middle. It's that he's a monster in open space. So Green Bay has had up and down performance from their linebackers this year. I mean, Edgerrin Cooper did not have the game you needed him to have against Rico Dowdle and the Cowboys. So I think while there is certainly some positive matchup here, the linebackers need to show up in a huge way, because if you force Jared Goff in obvious passing situations to drop back and throw to Amon-Ra, that's when you can get things like you saw week 1, where Micah Parsons just has a field day out there. But if the linebackers are not playing at a high level, I think then the secondary weaknesses are going to show up in a big way.
And I expect Green Bay to have a very similar game plan. Obviously, it starts with stopping the run. They're going to have to be as effective as they were in week 1. I think getting the lead in this one is going to be huge too. I would expect both of these coaches, if they win the toss, to take the ball. I think both teams want to get out on the front foot and then put pressure on the opposing team. We'll see if that comes to fruition or not. But if they can stop the run game, again, you mentioned Sam Laporta had 6 for 79. Mm-hmm. He was their only true player that kind of got going to any real extent in that game. They're going to play everything back. They're going to keep everything underneath. They're going to force you into those checkdowns. It's going to, again, be probably a lot of Jahmyr Gibbs on those checkdowns. And now it's up to if Quay Walker can play in this game. We'll see. That's going to be a big kind of test throughout the course of this week, if Quay can go or not. But you've got Quay and Cooper that with just their incredible speed on the second level to immediately get those guys to the ground and get Jahmyr to the ground before he has the ability to pick up that head of steam and just all of a sudden race by everybody. That was huge in week 1. Again, I expect them to have a very similar game plan. Detroit will have their game plan ready for it as well. But I really, truly believe, going back to what I said a moment ago, whichever team can kind of get up early in this game and kind of put pressure on the opposing team, I think it's a massive, massive advantage in this one.
The lines are going to come out. Like, they'll be ready for this one too. You know, after week 1, especially, Thanksgiving Day game, obviously a massive game for both teams. I don't know if it's necessarily, some people are calling it a must win. It's not really a must win, but it's a really important game. Detroit's going to come out and give you their best punch. I'd be surprised if you saw, a replication of week 1, that performance for their offense. But it's, you're right. When Gibbs gets the ball out in space, can you make the tackle? Because if you miss, it's going a long way.
Just going back to the must-win thing for a moment, It's obviously not like a must-win from like a playoff winning standpoint, or getting into the playoffs or things like that. There's still a lot of opportunities left in the season. However, it's really difficult right now to go on the road, especially I think in this NFC, for what will likely be 3 games on the road if you want to make a Super Bowl and then win a Super Bowl. Like, you'd have to go through some version of maybe the opposite. Like if Detroit wins this, like Green Bay might have to go through Philadelphia, Detroit, and the Rams on the road to get to the Super Bowl, and then win a Super Bowl against the top AFC team on top of that. Like, that is a murderer's row of games. Not to mention for Green Bay, they end the season. It's not talked about a ton, but they have their penultimate game at home next week against Chicago. Like, that's their second to last home game. They've got Denver on the road, Chicago on the road, Baltimore at home, Minnesota on the road to end the season. So 3 of their last 4 are on the road. And then you'd have to go potentially road game to get to the Super Bowl if you don't win the NFC North. And your odds of winning the NFC North with Chicago, even just where they are right now, and now, both of these teams, kind of fighting for second and third at the moment, and now you lose and really put yourself back into third place. I think you're basically sealing your fate as probably not winning the division for the loser in this game. It's not over, but it's not a great sign. And I think that ultimately could be the kiss of death for either of these teams because of the road it would take you in the playoffs.
Yeah, that's a great point. And also, I mean, you can look at it from a pure playoff perspective too, where the Packers are the 6th seed at 7-3-1. The Lions are the 8. The Lions aren't even in the playoffs right now at 7-4. Like, San Francisco, whether or not you believe in Brock Purdy or if you believe in Mac Jones, whoever it is at quarterback for them, their schedule is Cleveland, Tennessee, the Colts, the Bears, the Seahawks. So you got to think that at least 2 wins over the next 2 weeks in Tennessee and the Colts. And then if you pick off one of those Colts, Bears, Seahawks games with the schedule the Lions and Packers have, you're feeling pretty good if you're a 49er fan.
Yep.
That's where that must win, I think, factor comes into it. Is okay, like it can get a little dicey. You're gonna need to
very
be
fast. Maybe
not perfect, but pretty damn close to perfect if you lose this game, which is it's kind of nuts. I mean, it makes the game a lot of fun, but you're looking at 7-4, you're looking at 7-3-1. Typically that feels like a record, where you're kind of easygoing, like, all right, we'll find our way in. It really is a massive game, and I can't wait. It's nice that I'm not really going to be stressed out about it, but I have to imagine you guys are like, here we go again.
Yeah, and Chicago obviously is going to play a big role in this as well. And they've got a really tough schedule coming up. They've got one game against the Browns that they're going to get, potentially get right game in a couple weeks or a few weeks here. But they've got at Philly, at Green Bay, at San Francisco, and Detroit. Besides that Cleveland game, so we're about to find out real quick what that Bears team is made of. But Green Bay has a really tough schedule. Detroit's got a really tough schedule. Chicago's got a really tough schedule. And these games against each other, Detroit, Chicago at the end of the year, the two Chicago, Green Bay games. And then this week, Packers, Lions, it's going to get very tight, very quick. And the other thing too is like, no matter what happens, that Friday game, Eagles, Bears, if all of a sudden like the Bears beat the Eagles, like now you're like, again, the team that loses the Lions Packers game is starting to really be like, oh boy. All right. Now like this is getting really dangerous really quick of potentially not making the playoffs.
If the Bears beat the Eagles, we're going to come on next week and it changes everything.
We Bears have to discuss whether the Bears can win the 1 seed.
Yeah. The Bears as a real contender. And I think they are like at 8-3. Like you have to maybe not contender to go to the Super Bowl, but the Bears as a real player in this thing is in effect right now. Like will they remain in effect? Well, we'll see over the next few weeks with the schedule, and they're playing the better teams in the league. That we'll see if they can continue to pull out these crazy wins. But man, if they go into Philly, and it's hard to see them winning that game. Just with the way the Philly defense, I know they fell apart against Dallas, but the way the Philly defense has been, recently. But man, if they do it, I think Caleb's playing well. I mean, the defense has a lot of the Bears defense versus the Philly offense will be fun to watch, and then it might just be so bad. Like someone has to do something like crazy. You're imagining, but I'm excited for that one too. I'm just looking at the injury report for the Packers and Lions. Is Jacobs right now? Is there any word on his availability?
Yeah, so we're recording this at 1 p.m. on Tuesday. We have not had an update as of Tuesday yet from the practice. The injury report is from Monday, is an estimated injury report because they didn't do a practice or a walkthrough on Monday. So it's just a pure estimation. But Josh Jacobs was estimated as limited in practice on Monday, as were Matthew Golden, who didn't play last week, Quay Walker, who didn't play last week, Nate Hobbs, who didn't play last week, technically Jaden Reed, although I don't expect him to play this week either way. They did get some pretty good injury news on at least the initial injury report, but we'll get a better feel for that, unfortunately, after we're done recording here. But we're going to be keeping a very close eye on Jacobs, Golden, and some of those players to see if they're going to be able to go against Detroit.
I feel like I'm just waiting for Golden. I don't know if it's going to come this year. But I've been a little bummed out about his production.
This is very like year one wide receiver in Green Bay stuff. Mm-hmm. Like it took Jordy, Randall Cobb, Greg Jennings, except Greg Jennings. Jennings is probably the exception. Like Antonio Freeman, we can go on and on. Like that's what ends up happening to receivers in Green Bay, especially when you've got the depth that they kind of have. And he's battled some injuries too. I love what I see from him on tape. I think it's just a matter of when, not if. And I still expect him to have a game or two this year where you're like, oh, all right, there it is. I can totally see it. But they've got to find a way once he's back and healthy to get him more involved. He's too talented to be as limited production-wise as he's been so far.
Do you have any concern that his size is contributing to an injury problem? Like, is this an injury-prone player brewing? Has he just gotten unlucky?
I think so far I would say unlucky. Obviously worth monitoring kind of moving forward, but so far I would just say unlucky. Hopefully it's not something that lingers throughout his career. That has happened. Marshawn Lloyd has had that happen in Green Bay so far. So you don't want that to be the case. But right now I just say unlucky, and hopefully this is kind of the end of his injury issues for a while, and he can go out and start putting some good games together.
Yeah, we got to pay attention to Detroit. I'm not sure. I think it's trending towards Kirby Joseph not playing right now, it looks like. And
huge. And
Terry and Arnold, still has the concussion. He was limited today or yesterday. I guess 2 days, 2 days ago on Monday. But that's important. That's going to be really important. You could just see Love having his way with the Legion of Whom. So it would be, I think the Legion of Whom is so funny. But those are other big injuries to keep an eye on. I can't wait. Yeah, I really can't wait for it. So, all right, why don't we do a quick prediction for the NFC North Week 13 games? Well, we'll start with the Packers and the Lions. We broke it down a little bit here. But who do you guys actually think is going to win the game when push comes to shove? Ziggy, we'll start with you.
This is a really tough game to predict. And whatever way I predict, obviously this game could go either way. These are two of the best teams in the NFL. I've just got a feeling about Green Bay. I think Jordan Love has been playing lights out. And the receiver problems, I've said this for years, can't continue forever. So maybe they will continue. Micah Parsons has shown up in big moments for the Packers at almost every point this season. Jordan Love's never failed to deliver a game-winning drive in my memory. I'm taking the Packers to win this one in a thriller.
I got Green Bay 20. No, I mean, I'm going to go 27. No, I can't do 27 because that's too cliche at this point. All right, we'll do 26-24 Packers.
Yeah, I see a scenario playing out where Packers get the ball down to the 35-yard line, and maybe Love takes a sack. Clock's winding down, 25 seconds. Everyone's run back to the line, and Love's trying to check the play, and the clock's run lower. LaFleur's not sure if he should take a timeout. You hear Jim Nantz going all right, they got to snap it now. And I think, the Packers this time they throw the clock out, unlike the Dallas game, and Detroit walks away. No, I'm kidding. I actually think the Packers are going to, people are going to get mad at us for all picking Green Bay in Detroit, right? After a game where Jahmyr Gibbs goes for 220 on the ground. But I do have a weird feeling about Green Bay as well. That they're going to, it just matches up nicely for them. And I think they're going to play a clean game. If really the only way, or one of the big ways they've been losing this year is when they have that critical mistake that you mentioned earlier, Andy, and they didn't do it against the Vikings for the first time. We'll see if it changes this week, but I'm going to go with the Packers. I also need to address something briefly. You didn't ask about this, Andy, but do you see this?
I do see it now, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, this is like a travesty, honestly, for me. Someone gifted it to us at the meet and greet, this Packers football.
Love this.
I feel like it's sickening to me.
What is I can't see what it says on it. What does it say?
It's a commemorative football from the 2010 Super Bowl team.
Beautiful.
And I said, when we were gifted it, I said, before opening it, I said, you know what? It'll be on the desk for a couple shows, no matter what, I promise. And I probably shouldn't have said that because then I opened it and went, oh God, these people, super nice. I mean, it is a really nice football. There's a certificate of authenticity that comes, anything that has a certificate of authenticity, that's a nice thing.
The Packers did really win the Super Bowl. It was not a figment of our imagination.
Yeah. And I'm like, oh my gosh, obviously I can't just be like, no thanks. I mean, I'm not a jerk. So I'm throwing it up here for a couple episodes just because it feels like the right thing to
maybe
do.
Just for Behind Enemy Lines episodes. There you go.
Maybe we'll do that. I could feel better. But what was great, and we said this, if anyone missed, the show Ziggy and I did yesterday, we said it in that show, but it's actually has, I don't know if it's on this side or not, the Packers Steelers score with the Steelers logo. When we got the football gifted to us, Jack just started laughing his ass off. And Jack, Jack, a big Steeler fan. Jack just starts laughing like crazy that we got the Packer football and we're going to have to put it on the desk. And he just turns to the crowd and goes, go, Pack, go, and starts this whole thing. And I start yelling. I'm like, Jack, do you see what this football is commemorating? It's celebrating That's your awesome. Super Bowl loss. And he took a look, was like, oh shit. All right, we have amazing. Two more quick, actually one massive game. And then, the Vikings at this point, whatever. The Bears at Philly, the Black Friday game, 3:00 Eastern kickoff. 8-3 teams, unbelievably. Does anyone think Chicago? Ziggy, do you think Chicago has a shot?
I think Chicago will cover 7.5 points on the road. I think that the Chicago team is an offense that can play with a lot of people. The defense is not terrible, but they're not healthy, and they're going to Philadelphia. That's why I absolutely can't pick them in this game. Eagles win, Bears cover. I'll say Eagles win an ugly 17-11 game. There's going to be a safety.
I also agree it's ugly. I also think the Chicago Bears cover. I'm going to say I'll do something similar. 17-16 Philly. I have a little bit of hesitation on this one though. Philly, when stuff starts going weird for Philly, it can get really weird really fast. And that was obviously a really weird loss. And there's already the AJ Brown stuff going on, and just something feels a little bit off with Philly. And we saw a couple of years ago where that can all of a sudden accelerate into some weird stuff. And Chicago, things are just kind of going right for them. I'm still taking Philly. I think maybe Dallas will be a wake-up call, but it'll be a weird game, 17-16 Philly.
Yeah, AJ Brown's not totally wrong with all the problems that the offense has. He definitely isn't. And the way he's handling it might not be the best. But Saquon's not playing like the Saquon Barkley last year, not even close. I and Caleb, the one thing about Philly, right? That D line and the pressure they can get. Caleb's just unbelievable at avoiding sacks. Like he's just one of the best I've ever seen at it. I think the Bears will keep it really close. And they will have a couple shots to win in the fourth quarter. Logic tells, my intuition says there's no way the Eagles won't win this game.
That's what I said about the Cowboys game.
But no, I know I'm starting to feel like this year, every time we pick these games, we're like, oh yeah, obviously this team will win. And then you show up on game day and it's like, what are we watching here? I mean, Bills Texans, right? Like who saw that coming? I'm gonna pick Philly, but like I think it's gonna be an awesome game. Maybe not an awesome game in terms of like being an entertainment value, but I think the score will be really close and there will be a couple really intense drives late. I'm with you guys though. I'll play along 17-13. The Eagles win. Yeah, but I will say I'd be pretty intrigued if the Bears won. Like I'm enjoying the Chicago as being out of it as a Viking fan. I think I'm kind of rooting for Chicago to have some chaos and put a little pressure on you guys in Detroit. And last but not least, the Vikings go to Seattle, rematch with Sam Darnold, his revenge game. I can't think of a worse situation for Max Brosmer to make his NFL debut if that winds up being the case. What's the spread? Like 10.5, I think, for Seattle right now. Do you guys think Seattle covers the spread?
We've got 10.5 for Seattle. Yeah. Yeah, they cover. I think Darnold's going to want some level of revenge too. Seattle big, 31-10 Seattle.
Jonathan Grenard is starting to work. There's a chance he will be back for this game. If Jonathan Grenard is out, Seahawks cover. If Jonathan Grenard is in, what would the most disappointing outcome for the Minnesota Vikings be here? We start winning some games, beat some contenders, don't make the playoffs, but tank the draft pick. If Grenard's in, there's pressure on Sam Darnold. Darnold gets a little bit rattled. He continues his streak against the Rams. If Grenard plays, I'll take the Vikings to win the game.
Wow. Okay, yeah. I mean, I've got Seattle, and unfortunately, I pick my team all the time, but Seattle will win this game.
This might be the first week I've picked the Vikings all year.
Tankathon is officially on, Andy.
Hey, I've got some good news for you. I just played around with the New York Times playoff simulator. A 6-0 record for the Vikings the rest of the way puts you at a 76% chance to make the playoffs. So just run the table. You've got the 3/4 chance of making the playoffs, guys. Just one at a time. Just one at a time.
Right now, we'd be picking 12th in the draft. Oh, God. That's just like, that's what we do. Even when we have these horrible years, we're picking like 12 to 15. And oh, God, it's just so bad. The final question I'll ask you guys, because I think this is a good McCarthy or like Andy Herman question. Right now, moving forward for, let's say, at the end of this year and next year, McCarthy or Shedeur?
You beat me to it. I was going to say we've got another dealer.
Oh, is that what you're going to do? I'm sorry. I told you.
I always ask you guys, like, all right, would you rather have McCarthy or Shedeur at this point, or McCarthy or Tyler Shuck at this point? Is there any starting quarterback in the league that you would not take over JJ McCarthy at this point?
I'd probably take JJ McCarthy over Jameis. Just because he's younger.
Jackson Dart's back this week, though. Jackson Dart's probably back this week, so that might not be an option for you.
I would take Justin Fields over JJ McCarthy at this point.
Oh, God. Yeah, what is it, 500 or 853 out of 854 in EPA since 2000?
Is the Jet situation as a fan better because they have to go out and get like a rookie quarterback and it's something new and exciting? Whereas like Minnesota, I don't know, maybe Minnesota does too, but like, are they just...
Woody Johnson still owns your team. At least the Vikings have a good owner, a competent GM, a competent head coach. We will recover
just from a pure quarterback standpoint. What situation would you rather be in, the Vikings or the Jets, knowing that the Jets are going to have to draft somebody early on and the Vikings maybe a little bit more in no man's land?
Pure QB, I probably still go us. I don't love any of the. Maybe I'm coping a little bit. I don't love any of the guys coming out of the draft this year. And JJ has had some flashes, brief and minimal, but he's had a couple. And it's, again, still only, 6 games, but has been like the worst. He's been like the worst ever, which is crazy. Yeah. But I think when you factor everything else in, like coach and, we have Justin Jefferson still. I still feel better than most of these teams picking above us right now at the season ended today, but it's gosh.
There's also the chance that between the Jets and the Vikings right now, that Max Brosmer is the best quarterback of the entire group for any of them. You never know. You never know.
Yeah, Brosmer coming out and being awesome I'll sign up for that. If I saw, and then we'll end it because I know you guys got to get out of here. I saw a brief comparison. It was like Trey Lance and McCarthy is the high pick that didn't work out. Garoppolo and Wentz is like the veteran who just gets absolutely murdered. And then you have the undrafted or last pick in the draft in Purdy and Brosmer who saves the day. Maybe KOC, offense like Shanahan, the two of them, great play callers. Maybe it works out. Probably not for us, but all right. Andy, congrats on the win again. Congrats on having the damn Packer football on our desk. Blue skies and rainbows in Green Bay this week. I'll give you a half-hearted good luck on Thanksgiving. I'm not really sure who to root for. Hopefully just a good game, but why don't you close us out here? And Ziggy, Ziggy, was something you want to say?
This sucks. I'm done.
Go ahead, Andy. Close us out.
I wish I had a great, close for us today, but glad that you guys got to experience Green Bay. Looking forward to Packers Lions, and I wish you guys the best of luck on your Tankathon moving forward. You've got Tankathon in Minnesota. You've got Toyotathon in Green Bay. Things are good. Life is good. Enjoy football, everyone. Enjoy Thanksgiving.